So many years ago, I was directing a 501c3 music academy for impoverished youth. And the founder's ministry was just amazing and effective. And she had to retire due to old age. And in doing so, expressed her displeasure with little things here and there that she saw the board doing and things that she wouldn't have done herself. So she enjoyed watching what was going on, but had her little things. And she shared those with one of the board members, and that board member took great offense, not to the founder but to the board. And in taking offense on behalf of the board member, she opened the door to a spirit of Absalom. I don't know if you remember who Absalom was, but I'll read a little bit about him. And so what she was doing was quite similar. So Absalom was a thief to legitimate authority, a destroyer of Christian fellowship. 2 Samuel 15, and Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the road to the gate. And when any man who had a lawsuit was to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call out to him and say, "From what city are you?" And he would say, "Your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but you have no one to listen to you on part of the king." Moreover, Absalom would say, "Oh, that someone would appoint me as judge in the land. Then every man who has a lawsuit or claim could come to me, and I would give him justice." Absalom dealt this way with all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the people of Israel. So Absalom was David's son, and he was obviously deceitful in the way he interacted with the people because he had power and authority, being the king's son. But Absalom became offended and wanted revenge. And so he sought to destroy God's anointed leadership over him. He sought to destroy King David's kingdom. And instead of recognizing his legitimate authority being his son, he clung to bitterness, which opened the door to the demonic. David's kingdom was severely damaged as a result. His rule was threatened. His very life was threatened by the people. Even so, David forgave him. He loved him. He was his own son. But Absalom was too proud to repent. And so they never had fellowship again, which is so sad. But he was just too proud. And David couldn't tolerate that spirit. And obviously the spirit couldn't tolerate him. So they would never enjoy that. And God judged Absalom's insurrection with not only with taking his life, but just as in Korah's insurrection, his son Amnon would echo his rebellion, and he too would suffer an awful fate. So if you ever find yourself deceived by this spirit, own it and repent quickly. Come clean to all involved. You may have felt legitimacy in your offense. Fine, yeah, maybe so. But leadership makes mistakes, and God appoints that leadership. And don't forget that. People throughout the Old Covenant seem to have forgotten when God appointed somebody. David was very mindful of it, and later he became king. He was a man after God's own heart because he understood how delegated authority works. He understood when God anoints somebody, he stands behind that person, he defends them. And so leadership makes those mistakes, but never forget that God appoints and defends leadership. Forgive and repent, that you may also be forgiven by the Lord. That's the only way it works. And the damage you caused could be reversed to a point, to an extent. So the board's members' offense was a dramatic decrease in community support is what happened, the long and short of it. She systematically approached everybody in the community, and that included the donors. And so many children, as a result, were denied service. These are impoverished youth. These are kids who don't get a lot to do that is healthy, and so it was very sad. And it was from a stupid offense. It was dumb that it was lifted to the level that it was and not resolved quickly. So today, I won't say the name of the academy, but it's 1/10 of the budget that it used to be, if that, and it's now operating in a small church. So instead of a brick and mortar, and it was such a cool ministry. So if you want to destroy a work of God, demons will help you to pull it off. And remember that this is a demonic thing that is going on. It's a very active spirit today. But you, in doing so, might find yourself an enemy of God himself. And so, looking back to this, I wonder what would have happened if this board member had just thrown herself on the mercy of God and come clean, especially to the donors that, she spread her offense to. The Music Academy could have made a comeback. The children could have learned an instrument with a mentor to help them through life, just as we were doing and reaching so many kids. But that didn't happen. They could no longer even afford a director, and so I lost my job as well as a result of this stupid offense, like I said. You might recognize somebody with an Absalom spirit, and they want to talk, they want to tell they're wrong and tell what happened to them. And listening to them is not going to help things. So be quick to just cut off that conversation, especially when you discern it, knowing that they're full of venom. An Absalom infected person is seeking to destroy, and they're not seeking forgiveness. They're not seeking a reconnection. So that's basically what I have to say. Cut it off. Don't listen. It's bitterness that's talking. Change the subject and be bold enough to expose the bitterness even. The righteous are as bold as a lion. So go with that and be strong. And be mindful that the Spirit is highly active today and loves to break up fellowship. And fellowship is such a precious thing. I was reading today about how just giving and nonprofits in general sprung up as a result of the Christian community. And it was in the heart of Christians to do this, and so they made it happen. And you don't see this throughout history. You don't see foundations and nonprofits and people helping people in this way. It was a result of Christianity. And so the enemy hates it, and the enemy hates the kids that were learning these instruments. The enemy wanted to cut them off, and he certainly did. He certainly was effective in doing that. And he used a board member who was foolishly offended and deceived. So be wary of the spirit of Absalom.